Hello, everybody. So my name is Fred Davis. I'm cutting this video for a philosophy professor who's a friend of mine. And I figured as long as I'm cutting it for him, I might as well put it on YouTube and share it with everybody else too. I have like 125 or 30 videos, something like that. I mean, it's a bunch. So this would make sense to put this one on there too. But this is kind of an introductory talk, but not exactly. We're going to go deeper than that, but it's sort of an introductory talk. It's a way to begin to get a handle on non-duality, which is a very, very difficult thing to get a handle on. So the path, when I say I'm a non-dual teacher, if I call myself that, that's really for marketing purposes. It puts me in a certain category of spiritual teacher. If you're looking to manifest a new house and car and girlfriend, I'm not the guy to come to. I don't actually do dream improvement unless it is simply a byproduct of spiritual awakening. What I do is spiritual awakening. So spiritual awakening was something that I sought for 24 years as a spiritual seeker. And there just so you know, there are actually millions of spiritual seekers out there, but very, very few of them will ever become spiritual finders. There are many, many, many evasive paths, and there are many paths that are better than others. There's some paths that are better than others. The living method of awakening is not a path to awakening because there is no path to awakening. That's the reason I call it a method, is that a path, and I took a lot of heat for calling it method, but a path is, the difference between a path and a method is that a path doesn't have to actually produce, and a method does. In other words, if you want to get on the path and be a spiritual seeker, there's a zillion places for you to go. And whether you want to be Hindu, Buddhist, or to study Kabbalah or whatever it is, there's many, many paths that you can take. But more often than not, I'll ask you how you're doing on the path, and you're going to tell me just fine, I'm making a lot of progress. And if I ask you that same question in 5 years, you'll tell me the same. And in 10 years, you'll tell me the same. And I just want you to know, folks, that I work with people every single week every week, sometimes day after day, who have spent 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, even 60 years on the spiritual path and still don't know what it is that they've been seeking, don't know that evasive truth. Because what they want to know is they want to know what they really are. And if we could say that the study of non-duality initially it is an intellectual recognition. That's where we start. Non-duality tends to play down the intellect a lot, which I think is just criminal, because it's where we all start, and we got to have it because we use the mind. It's our tool. We use the mind to go beyond the mind. We use language to go beyond language. We use thought to go beyond thought. Those are the tools here in relativity, because this is what I call relativity. This is the relative world where, in this relative world, or consensus reality, there's everybody walking around, just about everybody, a few exceptions, but just about everybody is walking around thinking, I am this single unit, and this is as a result of that, there is there's something underneath that says, and I am the center of the world, because everywhere I look, no matter what direction, look at that, I'm right in the center. So it really is about me. And this is the way that our planet has operated now for thousands and thousands of years. But lately, it's gotten to where that sort of operating is too costly, because there's simply not enough here for 7.2 individual centers of the universe, which is what it feels like for everybody. But there's plenty here for one. And that's what non-duality points at, is the fact that there's just one thing going on here. And it doesn't matter what branch of non-duality you're using, whether it's, again, Zen, Kabbalah, native wisdom traditions, doesn't make any, whatever it is. Any of them can potentially take you to the truth. But that potentially is a large word, Christian mysticism, any of them. But that that potential is really what's really right, because what we find out is that in most traditions, the people that I work with have usually gone through one or more traditions by the time they get to me. Because I live in America and much of my teaching is done here, probably 2/3 of it is done in America and a third in Europe and Australia and elsewhere. But because I completely forgot what I was talking about. So I'm going to probably do that more than one time in this video. So I'm not going to just cut the video and like try to edit that out, because that would be trying to present something to you that isn't true, which is that this is a continuous flow coming from a Fred Davis body. That this talk is a continuous flow coming from there, and it is a more or less continuous thought pattern, but it's not coming out of a Fred, it's coming through a Fred. Because when I told you that I'm Fred Davis, that's not really true. It's not really true. I couldn't not say it because it just sounds so crazy coming out the gate with something like that. But at this point I have to just pull my pants down and tell you the truth. And that is that I'm not a Fred Davis. There isn't a Fred Davis anywhere, ever. Never has been, never will be. But for that 24 years that I was a spiritual seeker, I thought I was a Fred Davis, and I thought that Fred Davis should wake up, and that the way to get Fred Davis to wake up would be to add something that this poor lacking individual didn't have, probably in the way of information. And but it didn't work, not for 24 years. And when it worked was when I gave up. And now you can't do that as a strategy, just so you know. Don't try to do that as a strategy. It's just, it sometimes happens. What it amounts to is that my life was so miserable, practicing alcoholic, lost everything. Now I'm in middle age. And I was in my 50s before I woke up. And when I say I woke up, all of this is double speak, because I'll be referring to me as Fred in order to not seem crazy, and I'll be referring to me with my own true identity, which is awakeness. I am awakeness, or you would probably call it consciousness. You can call it Tao. You can call it God if you want, but that's not any claim that this individual is making. Because there's no individual here. See, the thing that all of these non-dual traditions, the thing that they agree on is that there's just one thing going on. For thousands of years, mystics from different traditions have come back to this simple central place, which is that, it seems like there's just one thing going on. That everything is connected. Everything's connected to the point that there's no connectivity. There just is this one thing. But we again will use the word connect and things like that because it makes sense. We have to talk about if we're going to get anywhere, we have to talk around the truth, because we cannot talk about the truth. There's no way to talk to it. I was in a satsang, which is like a group meeting, yesterday, and I tried to talk about it, and I nearly. What I did was I took people on a guided tour of the layers of reality. Took my students on a guided tour of some of the layers of reality, of moving from consensus reality to truth. And by the time we got to truth, everybody's mind was blown, including mine. I nearly passed out. That's the second time that I have really gone after trying to tell somebody this very, very directly as to what truth is. And the first time I did pass out with friends in my living room, and yesterday I came that close, right? Which is, I don't even know what that means. I'm just reporting it. That's all I ever do. I just report. Because, and this thing reports through this. But I am actually the animating, what I am is the animating presence of this unit. Let me show you something. So when I say the animating presence of this unit, I mean if I withdraw the animating presence that is here right now, if that is withdrawn, then what I got is I've got myself a cadaver. It can't do anything. So basically, what I have here is an animated cadaver, and this is more true than you can imagine. But the interesting thing is that because we grew up in we were trained. We don't want to say brainwashed, do we? But it would be truthful if we did. Is because we woke up in that kind of a thing, then we tend to think that these are the big deal, that these units are the big deal. We think objects are the big deal, and within those objects, the human is the most special. Right? And we pay a lot of attention to these objects. But see, that's like paying a lot of attention to this puppet. Okay, see this? This ostrich. So this ostrich, it looks like it has free will. It looks like it can make decisions, right? And all of that. But in fact, the ostrich has no power unto itself. See, and the truth is that truth itself is not about the ostrich. It's about the hand. Because see, in the absence of an animating presence, which in this case is the hand, in the absence of that animating presence, then what I've got really is a glorified sock. Do you see that? And so what happens in my career is that glorified socks from all over the world come to me and ask me to wake them up. Can you imagine? A sock, a glorified? Well, that's exactly what happens. When they say wake them up, what they mean is they're talking about spiritual awakening, what we might call, and most of us do, what we call enlightenment. There are different experiences and depths of enlightenment, but the thing itself is actually cut and dry. It's on or it's off. You've seen it, or you cannot see something over there. You can't see oneness from over there because it's just oneness. See, this is what I was talking about earlier. Is that there is the sense that all these mystics get, that there's just only one thing going on here. And if we don't subscribe to the theory that there are, which I've seen to be fact, of the oneness of all things, then we need to just go ahead and get out of non-duality and do something else, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Because there's nothing wrong with doing what you do, because you can't not do what you do. So, but if we recognize that there's only one thing going on here, if we subscribe to that, just pretend with me right now that there's just one thing going on. And it's okay what you believe. Just pretend that there's just one thing going on. And so I'm going to call you oneness. That be all right? So oneness, if there's just one thing going on, is there any way that you can't not be it? See? That's what I call the backwards teaching. The usual teaching model is everybody pushing toward the front. Everybody's trying to get to be like the enlightened guy at the front of the room. And that very model is deceptive. I can't go into it in this talk, but it is deceptive. Because, well, to go into it briefly, it's because we got the enlightened guy at the front of the room, and you, me, and the rest of the knuckleheads sitting here on our cushions. You can't wait until these units wake up and can be like the unit on the stage, the awake unit on the stage. And I'm just here to tell you there's no such thing as an awake unit any more than there is a Fred Davis. These are all conceptual. I mean, but this can be seen experientially. And non-duality is not just the intellectual recognition, but it is the it is the direct experience of this oneness, and more than that. And more than that. But that's a good place to start. So the living method doesn't come at it from that front method. There's not a, you can see there's not an awake guy at the front of the room. There is awakeness, and it's in this virtual room, so to speak. But it's not. But it's not something that's over there. You might project that this unit is awake and you're not. But if you do that, you have deceived yourself. Because there's only awakeness. There's only one thing going on. If there's one thing going on, you can't not be it. You see that? And so, coming from that open policy, because it's for 24 years I pounded on the gates of heaven, please, please, please let me in. And then sometime in that 24th year, I turned around and I realized, oh, I see, I'm already in. I'm banging on the inside of the door in an attempt to get out of here. So, but getting out of oneness is a tricky thing to do. How do you get out of oneness? Let's pretend you are oneness for just a minute. So go back to that. If you're oneness, since there's no way that you're not it, so I'm going to continue to address you as oneness, and let me ask you these questions. So oneness, is there anything other than you? Can you find anything? So be oneness and check. Can you find anything other than you? Just let your character go to the side and just pretend that you might be a oneness itself, right? And when we're talking about oneness, we're talking about this oneness, right? That's the part I didn't get, was that I thought oneness began right on the outside of this Fred unit's skin, and that I was outside of oneness and I was looking for oneness. But see, that's two-ness. And the math of one says 1 equals 1. It's very simple but very profound. Because if one equals 1, then there is no two-ness to be. It can be experienced by oneness. Two-ness can be the sense of duality can be experienced by non-duality. The sense of two-ness can be, or three-ness, or a millionness can be experienced by oneness, but it can't actually be, because the fundamental nature of the universe is this oneness, and it's actually beyond that. But that's as far as this conversation can take it. I go beyond that, and if this tape gets like bandied about, they'll probably come arrest me. I keep most of that stuff for the closer students and talk mostly about oneness in public, because there's some way to at least grab a handle, get an idea of what that might mean. There's some concept. And the truth is, there's no concept to truth. That's the reason we can't talk about it. Because see, what truth is, when I say what truth is, I'm talking about you, because there's just one thing going on, and you can't not be it. So this truth is actually prior to language. That's why we can't speak about it. Is that what you are is prior to language. And what you are is prior to thought. What you are is prior to experience. So how are we going to think, talk, or experience? You can't do it. You can't get there with thought or language when these things are prior to thought or language. There's a sense of being. There's a sense of being Fred. And the sense of being Fred, there's a keen sense of that here, cannot exist if there's not first the raw sense of being. And we're going to say that raw sense of being, we're going to say that this noticing that you're here, and me knowing that I am here, that's that sense of presence. It's not exotic, it's just knowing that we're here. But we do know that we're here. We have always known that we are here, and we can't imagine not knowing that we are here. So whatever this is, it doesn't appear to even have an opposite, because you can't imagine an opposite to the sense of being, because it takes the sense of being to even try to imagine an opposite. It seems to have always been here. It's here right now, and we can't imagine it not being here. Another word for that would be eternal. So it cannot be found in space. There's not some space and then a sense of being and then some more space. Nothing like that. It's just that it seems to have always been here, doesn't it? And so we have a word for that too, and that's called since it can't be found in space, we call it infinite. So infinite and eternal, it's right here, right now. It's right over there. You're it. You're it. There's only one I, no matter who says it. And that's I'm out of time. So it was pleasant to know you, and thank you very much. And I hope you'll come see me at awakeningclaritynow.com. You can just get on Google and do Fred Davis in any spiritual term you wish, and you'll get me. Actually, you'll get me if you just Google Fred Davis, but mostly you'll get the black football player. So, thank you so very much. I'll see you later, and bye-bye. Be well.